It's Mock Draft Live with Aaron Stewart. Oh, and me and Seth, that guy. Welcome, Aaron. I'm excited for this. This is our first one. This is a new thing that we're doing on playerprofiler.com or Player Profiler YouTube channel, rather. And I'm anxious to see how this goes because I feel like you and I are kind of in the same place with our rookie research right now.
I would agree. Admittedly, a little behind. Sometimes it's, you get to doing all kinds of things. I'm getting roasted by the rest of Player Profiler for some of my takes on last night's trade gods, buy Marquise Brown, sell Chris Olave. But, this is the time where I really start to ramp it up, the research. I'm an analytics guy, right? There's not much I know about these guys, but I will say that the receivers in particular, I've dug into their bios. I can't say much more than that, but the receivers, I feel like I know. Some of the running backs, you get down there and you're like, I've heard that name before, so this will be interesting.
Yeah. No, so if you're not aware of what we're doing a 2-round, 1 quarterback, half PPR mock draft. And before we get going, why don't you go ahead and click the like and subscribe button to the Player Profiler YouTube channel. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and try to figure out technology and share my screen so you guys can follow along with us as we draft here. So we're going to be doing it on Sleeper. I'm going to take away this overlay and present it so you can actually see it there. So, Aaron, we did a very complex process of awarding the number 1 overall pick, which was, I just said, Aaron, you can have the number 1 overall pick. So, if you'd like to kick this off, Aaron, I wonder who your first pick in this draft is going to be.
Well, I'm not going to go for any shockers here. Let's face it. It's got to be Bijan Robinson. Even if this was super flex, and it's not, it's 1 quarterback, it's got to be Bijan. It's going to be the running back that's got the size, the athleticism, the do-it-all skill set. Don't get cute. You got the 101. It's been Bijan for at least a year. Just take Bijan, get the production, and just be happy with it.
Yeah, no, I think in all formats, even super flex formats, you're seeing that Bijan is that guy. He's super athletic. He's probably going to be a first-round draft pick. And when you get a rookie with that kind of draft capital, likely going to a pretty good situation because he's probably going to get drafted in the mid to late first round. If he gets drafted there, he probably will. Like I said, that's a smash. He's really, really close comparatively to, Saquon or Jonathan Taylor. He's just a super athlete and a guy that, is going to be the 101, I believe, in all formats. For my pick here, this is interesting. This is where it gets, you start with the half PPR and the single quarterback, right? Anthony Richardson would not be in play here. He might be in a super flex or a CJ Stroud. But I think I'm going to go with Jackson Smith and Jigba as my pick here at the number 2 overall pick. And I know in Cody's mock draft that I believe Jordan Addison was the first wide receiver off the board, and the NFL really likes Jordan Addison a lot more than we do. But I think Smith and Jigba is that guy. I think he's going to be a really, really good player out of the slot. And I think he can play just about anywhere. I think he proved that in college. And I think if you take Smith and Jigba, I think he's the guy that you just plug and play in your lineup for, a long, long time, and huge upside with a player like this too, that you don't get with some of the other wide receivers. And another note I will say, I like some of these running backs later on in the draft. So I'm going to go ahead and get the wide receiver 1 on my board and just lock him up.
Can't argue with that logic. That is the one receiver that I feel the most confident in this class. Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's been a guy that we've talked about in like Devi for years, right? It was when he was there with Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, putting up the season that he did. like over 1,500 yards. That's impressive. Like, I don't have the breakout finder pulled up right now, but that teammate score has got to be really, really good. And this is also a chance to tell people listening to this, like the 2023 NFL rookies are in the breakout finder app. Make sure that you go and purchase the 2023 rookies. It's worth it. I love the breakout finder. Years ago, that's what put me on Brandon Ayuk, thanks to the breakout finder app. So breakout finder app, I'm sure, really loves Jackson Smith and Jigba. So my next guy, I think that I actually would take him in a half PPR league over the top receiver, because I'd go with Jahmyr Gibbs. Half PPR, for me personally, how I tackle the those leagues is I still want running backs. And Jahmyr Gibbs, a little small. And yes, he's a pass catching running back, but I'm not going to knock him for it in half PPR, right? Like, receptions are receptions. Receptions are worth more than carries. So even in a half PPR league, still love pass catching running backs. I love the fact that he's fast, right? Like, he's sub 200 pounds. That sucks. That's probably not something he could have realistically taken care of, but running fast, like, dadgum. I love that. Wish we could see some bursts, some agility. Played at Alabama this past season, going against SEC talent on defense. I'm sold. So give me Jahmyr Gibbs, and I would say I'd probably take him at 102 and a half PPR single quarterback.
Yeah, that was the other guy I was considering at the 102, and I mean, he's my second favorite running back in this class too. I mean, gives you kind of those Alvin Kamara vibes as far as catching passes out of the backfield, and he doesn't come with the size that we would like. I mean, he's almost 200 pounds. I mean, that's not terrible. I kind of, James Cook would be a watered down version of Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of like James Cook had a similar body type coming out of college. So I really like that pick. That's who I would have taken. If you wouldn't have taken him, I would have taken him at number 4. But to speak to number 4 in my pick, and this is a running back that I'm really, really growing on the more I read about him, the more I watch him. That's Zach Charbonnet. He's going to be my pick here at pick 4. And it was tempting to go with a wide receiver, but I'm guessing it would have been a little bit too early, because you do have to play the poker game when you're drafting in your rookie drafts, and depending on your situation, how many picks you have, obviously. But in a half PPR league, Zach Charbonnet, I think at 6 foot, good size, 6 foot, 214 pounds, pretty good athlete, pretty good RAS score. And I think he gets drafted. I mean, I think at the very least he gets 3rd round draft capital, which is what we're looking for. And day 2 draft capital rather. And I'm excited to take him at number 4. I think he's the number 4 player in the format that we're drafting in, according to our rankings, which you should go get those rankings, by the way, with the Dynasty package or the all-in package at playerprofiler.com, promo code Seth, save you $10. But I really like this player coming out of UCLA at number 4.
Can't argue with it. I know that sounds boring. I'm not arguing your pick, but like, in the half PPR, running backs with size, I was looking at these running backs, and it was Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Zach Charbonnet that I go, yeah, like, those to me are without a doubt top 3 running backs in this class. I know some people are like, oh, he went back for his senior season. Let's boo this man. We can't take him. He didn't come out his junior season. Did that really change the player that he is or was? Like, no, it really didn't. And if anything, he just showed that he could be a workhorse running back. He got all the work at UCLA. Again, catches passes. Yeah, like, in a half PPR single quarterback league, I don't hate that, because I feel like there's a pretty big drop off at running back at this point, which is why I will go receiver. And the interesting thing is, it's like, we've got all kinds of different directions we can go. My fear with a lot of these receivers is they're all the same size. Like, Podfather mentioned it on, I believe, Mind a Mansion recently, that like, all these guys, they're good, and their comp is like Devontae Smith. they're not all going to be Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is almost a unicorn, right? That low BMI, small guy. Can one of these receivers do that? Sure. Will all of them? No. But there is one guy who stands out because he looks different. That's Quentin Johnston from TCU. The size, right? Like 6'3", 208 pounds. The burst score, I love. Like, not just that it's elite at 98th percentile, but if you go and you look at the college stats there, you see 22.1 yards per reception, 18.6, 17.8. Like, look, I have not watched much film on Quentin Johnston. I am not a film grinder, but I look at the analytics and go, super explosive athlete that has a knack for making big plays. It seems that the analytics lines up with what actually happened in the box score there. So I feel confident with Quentin Johnston and taking the upside too. Like, it is kind of the old school way that we draft. Like, we want to draft the athletic players, right? So Quentin Johnston, I feel like he could be a difference maker. These other receivers, there will be good ones, but to me, they're almost all the same.
Yeah, no, he's probably the guy in this class out at the wide receiver position that's has the size, right? With 6'3", over about 210 pounds. Like you said, great burst. And I think a lazy take is the take that, oh, Big 12 wide receivers can't be good, right? Come on, people. I mean, this is if you're going to take a chance at a wide receiver, Quentin Johnston's your guy. Like, that could, I mean, very comparable athletically and size wise to like a Mike Evans. I mean, that's kind of what he reminds me of, just watching him play. So I like the pick. That's who I had next on my board. Because
I promise the audience we're going to argue with some picks. I promise it's coming.
This is what happens when you put two nice guys together. I mean, we're just, it is what it is. Yeah, we're not gonna agree. In fact, you might not agree with my next pick, but given the format of what we're doing here, I didn't think I would go in this direction initially. I thought, you know what, I want to take some wide receivers and take my running backs later. But you took Bijan, and I think I'm about ready to take Bijan's running mate in Roschon Johnson. And I know this is going to be high for some people, but if you look at just what he was able to do, and now I have to scroll to find him on here. So maybe I could have waited. I mean, but you could potentially wait in your drafts to take a Roschon Johnson. You might not have to take him this early. But, if I'm drafting against Aaron Stewart, I know that I'm probably in a half PPR format, right? I know I'm going to probably have to take Roschon Johnson earlier than I think. But if you look at what he did in college, even with Bijan there, it's impressive. It's impressive to me. And I think he tested really well athletically, and he's somebody that's just going to be really high for us. And I feel pretty good about taking him here. What do you think about that pick, Aaron? Would you have waited on a Roschon Johnson?
It seems that probably in your home league, dynasty league, you could probably wait on him, because as I just saw when you scrolled on Sleeper, like, Roschon's down there a little bit. But I also go like, hey, in a draft, let's just assume that like you only have the 106, you're not able to get back up into the first round. Take your guy. But I would say if we could trade, you probably trade down and still get Roschon, because it just seems that Player Profiler were higher than consensus. Not saying we're wrong on that. It's just sometimes that's the leverage game you have to play when you're doing those dynasty rookie drafts and you're trying to figure out, how can I get my guy, get value? That's how you win the dynasty rookie drafts.
Yeah, just to speak on his college production, I mean, there wasn't a season that went by, that he wasn't productive in college. I mean, with Bijan Robinson there, I mean, he had in 2020, 21 and 2022, he had over 500 yards rushing, over 5 touchdowns, was productive in the receiving game as well. So it's just, the problem was that Bijan Robinson was there, and Bijan is on another level, and nobody's denying that. I mean, Bijan Robinson is obviously a better player, but he was still productive even with Bijan there. And I think that's what's getting getting him overshadowed a little bit. And hopefully, I think that's going to transcend, and he's going to be able to be very successful in the NFL. I think he just has a frame and a body of work that is going to translate well. So, yeah, that's how I feel about that. I'm interested to see what direction you go in here, because when I came into this, Aaron, I thought I would be taking a lot more wide receivers than I've taken, because I thought maybe I would get Quentin Johnson at number 6, because I thought maybe you would go Roshan Johnson. So it's interesting how it's playing out. I might be my own strategy. You might be using my own strategy coming into this against me, but I'm interested to see what you're gonna do here.
Well, one of the things I see the comments there too. Good old Nate. Give me grief
here.
like player profiler's been giving me today. Where am I comfortable taking Rashad White? His name's wrong. It's Rafraud White. He's a fraud. Come on.
Oh no, we're gonna disagree. Yeah, I'm a bigger fan of Rashad White than you, but that's
everyone right. Is. That's that's why I'm getting roasted on Twitter there. I'm not a believer, but that's okay. I saw his rookie season in the NFL. that's all I needed to see. But this might be where I take things a little interesting here. Ooh. I feel like the public would take Jordan Addison, but I love Zay Flowers more, and I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. So I know, like in Dynasty, it's like Addison is he's almost a year and a half younger. And trust me, I see that and I still go, what am I doing? But Zay Flowers, maybe it's because I wrote his bio and I went through his college career, and I just fell in love with the Boston College all-time leading receiver. I want to say it's 200 career receptions, just going off memory there. But Zay Flowers, I just feel like the guy it's safe, but also upside. It seems that the NFL also loves him. I won't give the breakout rating scores, because if you want to see these, go and purchase the 2023 rookie rating, 2023 rookies for the Breakout Finder. But I was pleased to see where his breakout rating was. I was impressed. So with me, if you're looking at the player profiler rookie rankings, I'm jumping down a little bit. But Zay Flowers is a guy that I cannot risk you taking with the next pick. I've got to get my guy. Give me Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers is I'll just go ahead and say it. I think he's my favorite player. I'm going to have a ton of Zay Flowers in rookie drafts, because I'm going to value him right about where you valued him in this draft. And I'm so disappointed that you took him, because I thought for sure I was going to be able to get him with my next pick. And so you played the poker game the right way, and this is what you got to do. And Shervan Fakimi, hopefully I'm saying his name right, wrote an amazing piece on Zay Flowers, and he just totally sold me on him. So if you want to check that out, if you want to, it's tape combined with analysis. It's just a great piece. It's the Who Got Next series that he's writing. So just watching his tape, the analytics, the athleticism is there. He checks so many boxes for me that a Jordan Addison doesn't necessarily check. And it's going to be so interesting to see if Jordan Addison gets the draft capital. It's going to, some people, that's the direction that they're going to go. But I think Zay Flowers is going to get pretty good draft capital too. I think there's a really good chance he's a first-round pick, and that might be a hot take, but I think some team is going to fall in love with them and take him in the first round, back end of the first round. But that's just, I don't know if that's bold or not, but.
Well, and to piggyback off that too, it's like if he goes first round, there's two scenarios. It's like if he sneaks into the first round, he's likely getting drafted to a good NFL team, which that would be a better situation than being drafted kind of early, where most of those teams drafting early have quarterback problems. So that could work for Zay Flowers, and I want to say his best comparable, I'm confirming, Jahan Dotson, right, where Zay Flowers, Jahan Dotson went way high in last year's draft, right? And maybe that's what happens with Zay Flowers, because Jahan Dotson, I want to say, was picked 16 last year. And Dotson was a receiver that I ironically loved last year, and the breakout finder did not. So I'm feeling better. It's kind of like the redemption arc of Jahan Dotson, is that Zay Flowers, who is best comparable to Jahan Dotson, is a player that the breakout finder does love. Very interesting.
Yeah, so that now you've put me in an awkward position here where I have to think about what I'm and Nicholas points out Devin A-Chain, Daniel Jeremiah said that, this is a good comment here, and he comments on Zay Flowers. So A-Chain's on the board for me if I want him. There's also let's think here, Kendre Miller at the running back spot, but I think I do at this point. And I don't want to say like reluctantly, but I do think this is a good time to take a Jordan Addison, because I do think he's going to get the draft capital. I do think he's a pretty good player. I'm not as sold on him as I am on a Zay Flowers or a Quentin Johnson. And so I'm likely probably not going to get very much Jordan Addison. But at this point in the draft, with some running backs that I like a little bit later on, I think this is a good spot to take Jordan Addison. Even though I like some of the other receivers better. Like, I would probably have him right here, to be honest with you. So I think this is good value and a good spot to take him. What do you think of? I know we've kind of talked about it already, but what do you think about the Jordan Addison pick, Aaron?
The value is spot on. When you look at our rankings, and I'm sure if you look at any other rookie rankings, if someone's like, yeah, Jordan Addison, who won the Biletnikoff, the best receiver in college, not this past season, but the year before, to get that receiver who left college after 3 years, only stayed the minimum amount and went pro, to get him as the wide receiver 4 in a rookie draft. Like, if there was like the skinny receiver that I love comparing to Devontae Smith, sure, I don't mind like saying that could be Jordan Addison, who came in very slim as well. It's like getting him as the 8th pick. Is that right? 2, 4, 6, 8. I can do math. Sweet. I can count. Yeah. The 8th pick in a 1 quarterback draft. It's great value. Really hard to argue with that. Like, the only thing is it's safe, right? With a lot of those running backs, and that's going to be my little segue. Next pick, I feel like it's got to be running back, because they're at this point with the receivers, that seems to be the tier break. I have a hard time bumping any of these other receivers up. So then the question does become, here are, like, if you look at the player profiler rankings, there's Kendre Miller, there's Devin A-Chain. I hope I'm saying that right, from Texas A&M.
Yeah,
Tank
Bigsby. You are, by the way, because I was school on the Writers Roundtable. They taught me how to say. They teach me how to say these names. These whippersnappers we have. These whippersnappers we have on the Writers Roundtable. So you are pronouncing that correctly.
Which you forgot to say that the Writers Roundtable is a show that is on the Player Profiler YouTube channel on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So definitely catch that. That is a show that I've been a part of. You get some good fantasy analysis, and during the season, you get some really good prop bets and even some spreads, some totals to take. So that's why you hit the subscribe button and you make sure that you are subscribed to Player Profiler. We've got shows going all day, every day. It seems you're going to be notified of multiple shows each day. You can only get that if you're subscribed to Player Profiler. So with Jordan Addison off the board, looking at running backs, I know that Cody doesn't like this guy. I'm going with traits, really. Like, it's pick 9. And the truth is, in any rookie draft, this is the time of the draft where the picks really fall off. Doesn't matter if it's a strong draft, weak draft. Give me Devin A-Chain. Just speed. I know I see the best comparable, Chris Johnson. I don't believe he's Chris Johnson. I know that a lot of that is just, there's hard to find players that size, but I'm going to swing for the fences. If I'm picking here, if I'm imagining myself being this team in this fictional league here, if I've got the 9th pick, I'm already a playoff contender. I'm going to swing at running back every time because the receivers that you take aren't really going to move the needle much, not at this spot. So give me the home run speed. You're hoping that it just comes together in the NFL. We'll see. Texas A&M, they seem to feed him. So kind of following like how they utilized him. If he goes to the right spot, I get it. That's the case for any rookie, a creative offensive play caller. Oh, I'd be so excited with that speed and a good play caller. I guess this really is kind of James Cook 2.0. His breakout rating is pretty good. Like when in doubt, give me the guy that is likely to break out. Now, will he break out? We'll see. But I'll swing at pick 9 with Devin A-Chain.
I like it. That's honestly who was up next for me. And I don't know if I'm just going to be boring now, but I'm also going to go running back. And part of the Jordan Addison pick was I knew I was going to get one of these two guys. So go ahead and give me Kendre Miller as for my pick out of the 10 spot. If I can find him. Okay, there he is. And Kendre Miller, he's got good size, 5'11", 215, 30 BMI, coming out of TCU. Good. He's not yet 21 years old yet. I haven't seen as much tape on him as I would have liked to, but from what I've seen, he looks pretty impressive. And, just the problem, just about an average college dominator rating, which you'd like to see that a little bit higher, but I'm a fan of this at pick 10. I'm a fan of taking Kendre Miller there. But that's going to leave you, I think, in a predicament perhaps, but we'll see what you do here at pick 11. This is kind of where like you were saying, this is kind of where, you might want to do some things that might be a little unconventional, especially if you're picking at 10, 11, 12, you made a deep playoff run and your team's really good and you might not have many holes on your team and you might be kind of iffy about, some of these players and you might want to do something that your league mates might think is a little crazy. I don't know.
Well, I see Nicholas in the chat saying, we're talking about going a little crazy there with take Michael Wilson or A.T. Perry. And I do say Michael Wilson's that is one of my favorite guys just overall. Like I'm really pulling for him. Like I said, doing bios for receivers, like Wilson had to overcome multiple injuries. It was like 3 straight years of injuries. He's an intriguing one, not taking him here, but just, I want to mention to people, I feel like these mock drafts, yes, you kind of know the names that are going to go, but if you want to go a little deeper in those drafts, keep your eye on Michael Wilson. It's like he looked good at Stanford. It's just injuries, nasty injuries always robbed him of like those big productive years. But the benefit is in rookie drafts, when you're starting to look for who am I going to take late in the 3rd round, maybe the 4th round, or if it's even deeper league, 5th round, Michael Wilson could be there. And that's a guy to watch. I'm curious to see where he goes in the NFL draft. But at pick 11, we are nearing the end of the 1st round. I'm going to go back to running back again. There's Tyjae Spears, right? Tyjae Spears from Tulane. His final collegiate game was against USC in a bowl game. Don't ask me what specific bowl game it is. I don't know. Like there's too many different bowl games to keep up with them. I know this is where the comments boo me on that, but he scored 4 touchdowns. He handled a heavy workload. He catches passes. We don't have much workout metrics on him. I think his pro day was recent. I thought I saw something on Twitter. Don't quote me on that, but we do have a burst score. Burst score is personally one of my favorite metrics, athletic metrics for running backs. I don't care about 40-yard time. I don't. How many running backs are running 40 yards on a carry? Slim. Now, that's probably because I was a huge Javonte Williams fan. May you rest in peace, because that ACL injury is and MCL injury. It's going to be rough. But Tyjae Spears, love the 91st percentile burst score. Love it. A little on the light side, barely 200 pounds. He's 5'10". Would like to see him be a little bigger. Can't control that, though. Would love to see what he runs for a 40-yard dash just to get a speed score. I mean, obviously, if he runs like a Devin Singletary type 40-yard dash, I don't know if I'm as interested in a running back barely 200 pounds, but the explosiveness, the pass catching could potentially be a running back that ends up being a 3-down running back. Like he has a profile, and I think at worst there will be a role for him in the NFL. But there's some upside with good old Tyjae Spears.
Yeah, I like that pick, and that's somebody that we're just really high on here at Player Profiler. So I think that's a good pick, and I'm gonna follow suit, and I'm gonna go ahead and with the 12th pick. I'm gonna risk it, because I got a plan, I got a strategy. At least I think I do, and I'm gonna take Tank Bigsby out of Auburn with my next pick, and this is somebody who's super productive in college. I mean, uh, 2 seasons, one season over 1,000 yards rushing, the other season close to 1,000 yards rushing, 970, 10 touchdowns both seasons. He's not quite 22 years old yet. Good size, 6 foot, 210 pounds. I feel like I'm taking all the you're taking all the athletic guys, and I'm taking all the guys with size. But that's okay. I'll take Tank Bigsby there, and I'm a big fan of the player. So we'll see. A lot of this too. We're doing this before the NFL draft, and who knows what's going to happen with the draft capital, and that's a big factor in these rookies, or with these rookies. So I'll take Tank Bigsby there, and let's see. You are up next, my friend.
I am up, and we're going to break the trend here. We're not going running back again, but man, look at that first round. There's 8 running backs drafted. So, in your mind, you should be thinking, it's like, do I want to take the 9th ranked running back, or do I go in a different direction? I'm going to go in a completely different direction. Give me Anthony Richardson. In a 1 quarterback league, I get it. This would be a little bit of a reach. I'm trying to think of like team building. Like if it's a 12-team league, you're only starting 1 quarterback. The only difference makers are the Konami code quarterbacks. It is swinging for upside, and that's what I'm doing when I'm taking Anthony Richardson. I hope all the athletic traits come together, that the arm comes together, that it is the second coming of Cam Newton. That would be great. And if it does come together, you've got a starting quarterback in a 1 QB league. Like, I really don't want to be starting Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr types in a 1 quarterback league. I want to get the guys that you're a Bears fan. You saw what Justin Fields was doing in fantasy football. I had him on Prediction Strike. That was one of my favorite investments, made so much money with the quarterbacks that maybe they can't pass at that time, but they sure can run. And I had Cam Newton on a fantasy football like mega team that, what was it, 2015? Was that Cam Newton's MVP year? The crazy, like year for Cam Newton. I had him with like all these receivers scoring double-digit touchdowns. So there's a soft spot in my heart for Cam Newton, and Anthony Richardson could potentially be that. I know it's 1 QB. We're taking him a little early, but I'll ride with it.
That is the player I was considering at 12, and I did not expect. This is the second time Aaron has gotten ahead of me in the draft, and I recently broke this down on my YouTube channel, and I looked at all the quarterbacks, and I watched a couple games of each one, and the guy that just popped off the tape with his athleticism, with his arm strength, with his vision, there were moments on the tape where he manipulated the defense with his eyes the way Tom Brady does. Now, I'm not comparing him to Tom Brady, but he was able to do that and make multiple reads. And a lot of people that don't dive deep enough into this will say, oh, he's a running quarterback, 53% completion percentage in college. No, this is in my opinion, the best quarterback in the draft. Now he won't get taken number 1 overall. That's likely going to be CJ Stroud. And, CJ Stroud is probably going to be a decent NFL quarterback, but the upside that comes with an Anthony Richardson is off the charts league winning potential, even in a single quarterback league. And if you have the first pick in the second round, pick 13, even, I was considering him at pick 12. I think it's a perfect spot to take that chance, because here at Player Profiler, we like to take big swings, and that's ultimately what wins you championships, is taking those big swings, and you every once in a while you connect and hit a home run. And I think Anthony Richardson's going to be a home run eventually. Now he might sit a year depending on where he goes. That might be good for him. I think a perfect spot would be the Lions, if the Lions were to take him at number 6. But I love that pick. I love that player so much. He's one of my him and Zay Flowers, I'm going to have a lot of, I feel like, in my rookie drafts.
Just not in this draft.
Just not in this one, because Aaron sniped me yet again. So that's anyway. So now you've put me in a conundrum, a pickle, because I'm left picking up the pieces of this draft, and this is not a player that man. This is not a player that had the greatest combine, right? But I still think some NFL teams are going to be in on him. So I'm going to go wide receiver, and I'm going to go Kayshon Boutte out of LSU. And, I think maybe we like, don't get me wrong. And I said this on the Writers Roundtable, the combine's important, right? But it's one piece of the puzzle, and who knows what was going on with his combine. And we know his combine wasn't good, but he played 3 years at LSU, and was fairly productive in each of those years in the SEC. And while the 4.5 40 is not what we wanted to see, his best comparable player on playerprofiler.com is Christian Kirk. And if I get Christian Kirk at pick 14 in this draft, I mean, I don't think he's as bad as what he did in the combine. And I'm perfectly comfortable taking him here, because I think the pre-combine, this guy would have been in the first round. So I feel good about taking Boutte here.
Yeah, because it's one that people are very quick. I like that you point out that the combine is only one part in the process. Yes, it wasn't good.
It was bad. It was
like
bad.
That is, as Cody would say, fire your agent. What was the agent doing, letting this guy test if he clearly wasn't going to perform? But sometimes this will be an interesting take. But athleticism is important, but you also can't, it can't be everything too. Like, there are receivers that just don't test well, that do just fine, right? Like, sometimes there's the highly athletic receivers that just don't hit, right? Like, it's maybe this is just a guy that wasn't prepared for the combine, didn't take it seriously. This would be narrative driven, but like, from what I recall and just seeing and reading about Kayshon Boutte, is that the dude has talent. It was always something, right? Getting into it with his coach, and like, will he transfer, will he not? It was kind of a weird situation. You can probably even say maybe some maturity issues. This is all narrative. I have nothing to really, I'm just trying to read all this stuff and go, what's kind of my conclusion on this? And, if it's a maturity thing, that would explain showing up to the combine and not being prepared. But the talent's been there. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Kayshon Boutte was viewed as oh, this is the receiver you want in the 2023 rookie draft. And I remember all the Devy talk. So, it's the second round. It's the second round of a rookie draft. And after the first round, the chances of any of these guys that we're taking with these next 12 picks, the chances of them hitting are slim. They really are. Go back and look at your past Dynasty rookie drafts, and you will see that most of them don't hit. So swing for the fences. Kayshon Boutte, totally fine with that. I hope I'm saying his name right too. But
I think so. It's either Butte or Boot. I don't know. I'm sure
I like to
somebody will
go
let
with
us.
Butte.
Somebody will let us know if that's wrong. I'm sure. But
Someone will let us know. And because we've gone away from running back in a couple of picks, it's nice to come back to the position if I can talk. I am going to kind of stick with rankings here. There's a lot of unknowns with him, but we still have Zach Evans from Ole Miss, Zach Evans. When you download the rankings, it has Zachary Evans. I'm going to say Zach Evans. Ole Miss running back, I get it. Doesn't look like he's going to blow you away as a pass catcher. Fortunately, half PPR, right? He played 3 years in college. Like, coming out early is usually a good thing. And like, he had a really good season in the SEC, right? Just barely missed 1,000 yards rushing, but 10 touchdowns. Like, SEC defenses, those are legit. That's where you find these gigantic human beings that go on to the NFL. So Zach Evans, little on the small side, 202. I'm seemingly finding my type of running back, it seems. But a lot of this is I don't love Zach Evans. It just seems when he's kind of fallen there, I'm looking at who else I'm looking at. These receivers kind of all look the same to me. I will just take the one thing that looks different. Let's take Zach Evans and just cross our fingers. If he doesn't hit, that's okay. It's a second round pick. Like I said, we want to bat 100 on these picks, but after the first round, it's a crapshoot. That's why it was Anthony Richardson with the first pick in the second round, and we're going Zach Evans with the third pick.
All right. You finally did something that I wanted you to do, because I'm not a huge Zach Evans fan. Now, getting him there is great value. He's somebody who could very well sneak into the first round in your rookie drafts. I mean, depending on where everybody gets drafted. I mean, this is going to change, 100 times from now until draft day. And we might look back on these, these mocks we're doing, these exercises that we perform to, get ourselves prepared for our drafts. Oftentimes we look back on these and go, ooh, like we were completely wrong. And that's, that's fine. But we just want to be right more than we're wrong. And I think taking Zach Evans is there. It right there is a great spot to take him. But you did what I wanted you to do, I think, because I'm going to get a receiver that I really like. And this is playing out. It's funny how these things work. It's playing out exactly the opposite of how I thought it would play out. And I'm taking more of these receivers in the second round. This is my second receiver in the second round of this thing. And I'm going to go with Marvin Mims. And Marvin Mims, I feel like I'm getting him at a really good spot in the draft. You talk about burst score, 91st percentile, speed score, 4.38 40. Oklahoma productive all 3 years he was there, including his freshman year where he had over 600 yards receiving. This is another one of my favorites, and it's a favorite of the Podfathers as well. And I think for a really, really good reason. So Marvin Mims there at the 204, I think is really good value, and I really like that.
Yeah, and Marvin Mims has the interesting profile of like what a lot of these receivers have, which makes your draft strategies that going into rookie drafts interesting, because they're all this like kind of tall, like they're like 5'11", 6 foot, closer to 6 foot, but they're all sub 180. It's like, oh my gosh, that BMI. I don't want to overrate it for receivers, but like it's hard to find guys that build do well. That's kind of what my knock on like Chris Olave. He is a great player, but potentially the reason you sell is like we got him pretty high. Everyone's got him high in dynasty rankings, and we just have a hard time seeing that athletic profile hold up and consistently do well in fantasy. So like all these receivers that are left, along with Marvin Mims that got drafted, they have that same build, and they're all fast too. That's the problem. I am actually going to draft one of those guys, and it's not going to be who you think it is. I believe that, like, I'm kind of jumping down the rankings a little bit. I like Jalen Hyatt.
Ooh,
Probably fits.
I do too. I like that player a lot too.
Yeah, it fits kind of what I've been doing, where like I seem to be the person at Player Profiler that we've got the Player Profiler darlings, and I'm not a fan of them, and then I got the guys that I'm a fan of that the rest of the Player Profiler team trolls me for. That's all right. But with Jalen Hyatt, there's a few things that check the boxes for me. First off, like we mentioned that Jordan Addison was a Biletnikoff Award winner, the best receiver in college football. He won that, though, the year prior. This past season's Biletnikoff Award winner was Jalen Hyatt. The NFL loves him. In fact, if you go to one of the things I love to read is NFL.com. They've got Lance Zierlein, I believe I said his name right, has like his profile grades for players. That's one of the things I love to read before like combine and stuff to see where he ranks these guys, because sometimes there's some interesting guys that are at the top. And believe it or not, like we talked about in the first round, 4 receivers, and we're like, oh, there's a bit of a tier break. Jalen Hyatt had the highest grade. He had I'm pulling it up just to confirm. Yeah, his grade was the highest. In fact, like if you go back to last year's class 2, like it's the same grade, but he has the highest grade of the last 2 classes combined. I would say this is the right spot to take them, because like those grades that are higher, those have been the players that have been for sure hits in fantasy football. But like his grade is the spot where it's correctly identified as boom or bust. There have been guys that have done great. Garrett Wilson had the same grade last year. He's been great. There's been some other guys, not so much there. But it's interesting that he has a higher grade than Jackson Smith-Njigba, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison. Very interesting. And analytically, Tennessee has been just this weird team, right? This weird team to like look at receiver production, because the quarterback play for most of the recent seasons has been horrible, like before Hendon Hooker in his big season. So like that's where like Josh Palmer doesn't really pop up analytically. So you look at Jalen Hyatt and you're like, he really didn't do much his first 2 seasons, but still like you can't like discredit like the season that he did have in his junior season. Yes, an earlier breakout age would be ideal, but the breakout finder still likes Jalen Hyatt. In fact, amongst the remaining players here, there is a receiver with a higher breakout rating. I'm not going to tell you who it is unless you've got it pulled up there, but the profile, he's going to be a first-round pick, 21 years old, is young. Biletnikoff Award winners, they do tend to do pretty well in fantasy football there. They're going to get opportunities at pick, what was this, pick 17 in a one-quarterback league? Yeah, I will gladly take Jalen Hyatt.
I like I like that because he's one of the, like you were saying, a lot of these receivers, like I took Marvin Mims is 5'9", right, 170 pounds. Like Jalen Hyatt has the size, like he's over 6 feet tall. Like the weight's not about 170-ish pounds, but he's got the height and the length, and with the speed. So he's, like you were saying, a lot of these guys, Jalen Hyatt's best comparable is Dimey Brown. And Dimey Brown was somebody I thought would have a lot better career to this point than he's had. And we'll see. I mean, and you follow your trend there with the burst score, 97th percentile burst. Really impressive. So we'll see. I mean, at this stage of the game, again, I think that's another big old swing. And I like taking big old swings in the second round, especially in this kind of format. And somebody might not like my next pick, but I don't want Aaron Stewart to snipe me again. And I think in general, because I was listening to the Sonic Truth podcast with the Podfather and Theo and Alan, and Theo was really talking up this tight end class. And I think at this point in the draft, I feel comfortable kind of reaching down my board a little bit and taking my number 1 tight end. And of course, all of this is team specific, need specific. But if you're a team that needs a tight end, I think this is going to be a really, really good draft for you because a lot of these prospects, I think, like we could have, gosh, 5, 6, 7 tight ends in the first 2 rounds. There might be a couple in the first round. And so I am going to go ahead and take the tight end who I think is a lock to be taken in the first round, and that's Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. And what you're getting with this kind of tight end is your prototypical size, 6'5", 250, not even 22 years old. If you look at the metrics, he doesn't quite have the burst we're looking for, but above average speed, above average in the 40-yard dash. And he was productive. And one of the things I look for the most when I'm looking at players is, were they productive early on? Like, were they when they were younger, right? And his breakout age is in the 77th percentile at 20 years old. When they were younger, were they playing? What were they starting, and were they playing well? And he was very, very consistent, a very consistent producer at Notre Dame. And so I think he steps in the NFL, and he doesn't have the Kyle Pitts athleticism. I'm not saying he's not at that level, but he's going to be a solid NFL player. And at this stage, I think it's a pretty safe pick to get a consistent producer on your team at tight end.
Yeah, this tight end class is interesting. I haven't dug deep into the individual prospects, but I know, and just kind of glancing through profiles, you're like, wow, there is some intrigue to this. But tight ends, drafting rookie tight ends has just always been the one thing that I've taken my lumps over the years, right? I've fallen in love with rookie tight ends and athletic traits. And I tell you, the hard thing is because they take so long to develop, I usually just go, I will let someone else draft them. Trey McBride is the name that comes to mind for me of last season, right? Trey McBride, hey, I remember last year's Senior Bowl. I remember Roster Watch and Cody Carpentier. Someone there said hey, the best receiver was Trey McBride. And then, you fast forward a year and you're like, well, if you drafted him in the second round, you didn't really get much for it. I mean, you hold because you're like, okay, there's still the potential and there's Zach Ertz injury. But man, I hate taking tight ends on this one because if anything, I'm trying to find the guys that in year one can just blow up. I'm drafting the highly explosive guys, and the tight end difference makers. There's not a lot of them. There's not. It's it's basically you've got Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, Kittle, and then it doesn't seem to really matter much after that group. There's a couple. I love Pat Freiermuth, and Dallas Goedert I'm okay with. And there's one that I'm forgetting. I know I'm forgetting, but I wasn't going and reviewing Dynasty tight ends. But you catch my drift there of just going tight ends. It's hard to, if you're not one of the top 4 guys, you're not moving the needle much. It's Evan Ingram's the example. He had one big game last year. Boom, tight end 6 on the season. So it's interesting. You didn't have to worry about me sniping you on a tight end, but okay. I can appreciate you getting your guy.
Yeah.
So I'm not going tight end. That's the spoiler.
All right. I take all the tight ends from now. I don't have to. I can wait. I can wait to the 3rd or 4th round. Probably that's just a personal preference for me. But for me, I'm going back to receiver because there was another receiver that stood out to me. It's kind of boring because it's the top of the rankings of the player profiler rankings. But I love Jaden Reed. I think you were already scrolling to find him. Man, is he down that far? Yeah.
Interesting.
If these are, or did I miss some?
Hopefully. Anyway, otherwise the disrespect. I can filibuster while you're searching for them. First off, you're listening to this. You need to go to Player Profiler. Ooh, I also have to just kind of plug. That's crazy. That's Sleeper's wrong. That's the takeaway. That's the clip for this show is Sleeper's wrong on Jaden Reed. But if you're listening to this and you're not already, you need the all-in package, right? I get it. $135. It's oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. You're getting everything you need to win your fantasy football and your dynasty football leagues, including rookie rankings. And if you use code Aaron, not Seth,
Mm,
you can get $10
I
off
know.
on the, on the all-in package there. DFS, rankings, Dynasty, it's got it all. It's got a trade analyzer tool. It's got trade finder tools. It's got everything that you need. And the reason you go to Player Profiler is you can pull up Jaden Reed and just marvel at this player page. First off, the best comparable player, which take those with a pinch of salt there. It's not the be all end all, but Stephon Diggs there, that's a really nice comp. I freaking love that. And despite the fact that Jaden Reed is a little on the smaller side at 5'11", he's 191 pounds. That BMI is a little bit better than some of these skinny string bean guys we've been drafting in this draft. Jaden Reed, rookie, his freshman season was at Western Michigan, and he was the most productive receiver there. There was this other guy, Dwayne Eskridge. I know he didn't do anything in the NFL, but Dwayne Eskridge got all the hype. It was an eventual second-round pick, but in 2018, it was Jaden Reed that was the best receiver there at Western Michigan. He was so good that instead of staying at Western Michigan, he bet on himself. He transferred to Michigan State. So he sat out for 2019. It's before those weird college transfer rules where you can just change teams and immediately play. But 3 years in Michigan State, the target share was 23%, 26%, 22%. None of those numbers like blew up per se, but just consistently being that involved at an early age too, as a transfer. Oh, I love this guy. Plus, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I'm looking at the special teams yards. That's something that Jaden Reed can do. I'm sure his dynamic score, which measures which weighs like your receiver rush attempts, kick return, punt return. I'm sure he's got a pretty good dynamic score. I believe it's top 3 in this receiver class. Don't quote me on that, but I would not be shocked if just looking at the special teams yards alone and dynamic players, those are the type of players that you want to swing on in the second round, because dynamism, like we've seen it, like it gives you a chance. That's Kadarius Toney with the Chiefs. And if Jaden Reed makes it onto a fun offense, Buffalo released Isaiah McKenzie. I know, nothing special. And if it's not Khalil Shakir time, maybe they see Jaden Reed and they're like, you know what our offense needs? We've got Stephon Diggs. How about we draft another Stephon Diggs and just have him in the slot? That would be fun. So that's speculation on where he goes. But I love the profile of Jaden Reed. The college target share is 75th percentile, the early breakout age, 98th percentile. And not just, he did that at a small college. He did it at a small college and said, you know what? I can hang with the big boys. That's where I'm going to go. And he proved it at Michigan State. Love Jaden Reed.
Yeah, he's going to be another one of my targets in the second round. If I wouldn't have taken Mayer, I would have taken Reed. He was next on my list. So I love that pick. And you referenced it, the early breakout age. I think that matters. That's impressive, 98th percentile. So you said it all. It's he's pretty. I don't know why Sleeper has him so low there.
They always have weird ones.
Yeah, unless there's another Jaden Reed that I just couldn't find him. But whatever.
He gave me the wrong Jaden Reed. Well, and Nicholas in the chat loves him too. He's I'm curious now, Nicholas, are you at the Senior Bowl? That would be pretty awesome. I got someone that got to be there. You know, did you see Cody? See the Podfather?
Yeah, they were boots on the, like Cody's like he's Johnny Cash. He's like everywhere, man.
He really is. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, he's you check that out too. Cody's he Clemson, South Carolina, pro day. I think he was at Georgia's pro day, right?
Yeah, and he was there Wednesday, and we just had the FutureCast show too.
Yeah, so he was there, and he got to see that infamous Jalen Carter workout that some people are talking about. I think he had a little bit more perspective than some people. So that's
what we do at Player Profiler now. We have grown so much to where we get it. This is the time of the year where not only are you getting bad fantasy football analysis from like Twitter, but you're also getting just bad everything football related on Twitter, false reports and everything. But Cody's our eyes, ears, what muscles. He tells us what's Fugazi, what's not. I see Nicholas in the chat there that, man, I appreciate you loving watching film. I'm going to say I can watch players play and I usually can go, that looks good. I don't know I can't put into words what I'm seeing. For me, a few years ago, Jacoby Myers was the guy that I was like, he just makes plays. And it's nice to kind of be proven right. Like, he was undrafted, but now fast forward, productive, got paid. I love it for Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers is one of my favorite. I mean, he's probably still undervalued in Dynasty, really, because he's going to get a lot of those short throws from Jimmy Garoppolo in PPR leagues. Oh, boy.
And if a Hunter Renfrow trade happens, and it could.
Yeah.
Nicholas says, is it bad if I don't have a Twitter? Not at all. You're not missing anything except a lot of bad fantasy analysis. But if you are on Twitter, you definitely follow Player Profiler at Roto Underworld, because we've got quite the team there. We've been breaking news before Adam Schefter. I say I got to give the credit. Like, Jack Kavanaugh is a machine, and he's been breaking news before Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport on some of these. So, if you get Twitter, just know you can just follow Player Profiler at Roto Underworld, and you will be taken care of. You'll only get the best of the news and analysis.
All right. I had this. Yes, I concur with all of that. Jack Kavanaugh is actually helping me. We're going to publish a tracker, a free agency tracker tonight. So be on the lookout for that. Keep you up to date with free agency. I'm going to go ahead and
just casually mention that. That's huge news.
Yeah, no, it's dude, we put it together really quick with the help of Matt Babich and Jack Kavanaugh and myself. That was a lot of work, and something we just a lot of we have a lot of great people here. It's so fun working at Player Profiler, and I can't say enough good things about them. It's just like you ask for something, and they're right in line to help you out.
Yep.
So great shout out to both of those guys and all the people at Player Profiler, all the writers. And anyway, it just make my job so easy. But I'm going to take Eric Gray here, getting us back on this train. I'll shout out some more people at the end of the stream. Eric Gray is going to be a guy that's pretty, this is probably about right on par with his value. He's an older player. He had to transfer from Tennessee, had the really strong year at Oklahoma in his last year there. And, he talk about burst. He has good burst. He can catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit. He's, 30 receptions in 2+ years in college. So at this stage in the game, this could be the guy. I think of Dameon Pierce, and I don't know if this is a good comp or not. I'm just kind of pulling this out of my behind. But you think about Dameon Pierce was an older prospect, and I think Eric Gray could come in right away to an NFL team and have a Dameon Pierce impact. So I know he's an older guy. He's 23 years old, going to be 24. So, but in the second round, I like taking shots on running back, and this is a perfect spot to take Eric Gray, I think.
Yeah, because running backs are evaporating quickly. Oh man, if anything, the thing I'm kind of learning from this is I go, third round seems to be in a 1 QB league. Or even a super flex when we assume some QBs are drafted and push that will happen, push these receivers down. Like early third round, you get some intriguing receiver profiles, which is an excellent segue into what my next pick is going to be. Going back to receiver, it's, swinging for upside. I say there's the temptation, our skill position players are kind of thinning out a little bit. Those QBs become a little attractive. I think this is the range that you could, if you're not getting Richardson and the dual threat skills, you could take QB and that would be okay. It would just be safe. I have a weakness. I was a huge Elijah Moore fan 2 years ago. And there's Elijah Moore 2.0 that I can't turn down, whose best comparable player is one of my favorite receivers from last year in Wan'Dale Robinson. It's Josh Downs from North Carolina.
That's not
Josh
who I thought you were
Downs.
going to take.
Yeah, Josh Downs. I know he's small, right? 5'9", 170 pounds. I'm a sucker for the fast, high burst score, great college target share. I'm looking at the 2021 season with a target share that almost went to 40%. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was because I did the bios. So I think that North Carolina team, it's something like Josh Downs had 101 receptions, and all of the other North Carolina guys combined for something like 105, 106, like all, not wide receivers, all running backs, tight ends. If a quarterback caught a pass, like all of North Carolina. So those guys, I just can't say no. I feel like Wan'Dale Robinson, amazing game, tears his ACL. If he doesn't tear his ACL, we get to kind of see it. Elijah Moore, we saw it. We've seen this profile in spurts do well. Elijah Moore, the rookie season, right? The 5-week span, he was like wide receiver 4 from 2021. What was it? Weeks 6 through 10 or something like that. It was like he was only behind Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson, some crazy guys. Small sample size, I get it. We're near the end of the second round, and I look at the guy that fits the profile of the other guys that I have loved in the past 2 drafts. Like, loved, not that I would draft them in the first round, but just going, these are my guys. Like, these are like second round guys, explosive small receiver. It's probably why I am go buy Marquise Brown, because small, super explosive, fast receiver. But give me Josh Downs.
No, I can't hate it. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I thought you were going to take Rashee Rice, which is who I'm going to take. Just because you were a fan of Jalen Hyatt, and Rashee Rice has the size. Like he's 6 feet tall. He's just a little bit different, 200 pounds than some of the other wide receivers in this draft, and he has the burst. So I thought, he's the 95th percentile burst score on playerprofiler.com, and he was super productive in college. So he checks a lot of the boxes for me. And before the Bears traded for DJ Moore, I thought, this would make a lot of sense for them as a guy to take maybe in the second round. And so if he gets that kind of draft capital, I think he's a smash at the back of the second round. But, I respect the Downs pick. I would, me personally, I'm a Rice fan over a Downs fan, but hey, I love having these conversations. Like only sycophants like us that, that loves Downs versus Rice. We should make a video about that or write an article about it, and 99% of people might not care, but that's what makes Player Profiler special.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't hate Rashee Rice. The good argument for him is like, hey, one of the rare receivers in this class. Like a lot of them are like the 5'11", 6 foot, and they're sub 180 pounds. He's one of the few that does stand out. And it's probably, I know it's not this reason, but it's interesting in bringing up his page as best comparables, Terrace Marshall, who I was just not on. Like it's weird. It's like the athleticism was there, but I was like, I don't know. I don't really see it with Terrace Marshall. And I'm like, oh, that's Rashee Rice's best comparable player. I'm clearly finding out that I do have my types that I love and that I avoid. But yeah, the burst score, I think probably the one thing that is a little concerning for me with the great burst score, like I liked it with Quentin Johnson because like the yards per reception was through the roof. I'm like, well, that seems to tell me, just looking at that the explosiveness showed up in the box score. And this was a guy that after the rookie season, right, like 14 yards per reception, maybe it's not all his fault. Maybe it's the role that is given to him. But I go, that's something that I won't write him off. The thing I go, I've got to research that more because that's interesting. If he's running those intermediate routes, okay, I have an explanation. If not, maybe that explosiveness is scouting combine numbers, but not really football numbers, if that makes sense. Not football athleticism when you actually put on the pads and everything. So we'll see on that one. But like, shoot, into the second round, taking a guy with that high burst score, I love drafting for traits there. This is the interesting part of the draft because you and I have done the correct thing of just going, we got to get all these positions, but eventually at some point you do have to take a quarterback, right? Like you do, but which one? I've got to, because Cody put me on blast. They're all in fun. I love all the player profiler guys, but I will be with Cody on this one. Let's go, Will Levis. Why the heck not? Right?
Yeah.
Like swing for the fences, right? The upside is incredible. The downside, of course, is probably the worst of like the big four quarterbacks. But if all of those skills come together, I mean, not saying he's Josh Allen, but a big reason we missed on Josh Allen is we focus so much on what he can't do. We didn't focus on what players can do because players can improve. So if he lands in a good situation, that would be interesting. I wouldn't hate it if he went to the Colts, but Will Levis, intriguing, tantalizing upside there. I say that. I need to pull him up here on Player Profiler. It's like Stroud and Bryce Young, I think my big reason of avoiding them. Just going, they could be a great NFL quarterback. So as a fantasy football quarterback. I don't see either one of those guys moving the needle much in fantasy. Man, we really have nothing in terms of metrics for Will Levis. But we got burst. That's great.
Yeah.
But size, big hands, like that's good. That's good, right? Like kind of a weird situation too, where he was at Penn State and transferred. But man, and actually his rushing yards was low, but I know they take sacks into consideration there. But he had some decent rushing yards. It's like, who knows? Maybe this kind of comes together there. There's more upside with Will Levis than the other two guys. Will they be better quarterbacks? Sure. I just don't think that you're going to win fantasy football with them. But Will Levis, there's a chance. There's a small chance that you can win in fantasy football because of Will Levis.
Yeah, no, I like this a lot. And I think the reason we have Richardson and Levis, or the reason you should have Richardson and Levis ahead of CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, is not necessarily because they're more talented quarterbacks right now. Like they might not come into the NFL. Oh, I should rephrase that. They are more talented, but they might not be NFL ready right now is what I meant to say, right? Because Richardson's talent is off the charts. And I watched Will Levis play. Like I said, I did my quarterback study, and he reminded, like, he's such a big guy, and he played in the SEC. And a lot of times you just kind of felt like, man, especially in the Tennessee game I watched, Kentucky was just overmatched, overpowered, and he was running around trying to make something out of nothing. And there was a lot of short throws. And I think that's going to prepare these guys well. And Richardson too played in the SEC, and a lot of times was outmatched and outgunned. And I think, it might be a silly thing to say, but I think these guys were trying to scramble around and make things happen, whereas CJ Stroud was sitting back there with all day to throw. And, Bryce Young, very similar. And, and with Bryce Young, the size is a huge concern, and neither Stroud nor Bryce Young really moves around a ton. Bryce Young more than Stroud for sure. But it's very similar. And the size with Bryce Young is concerning still, even though he weighed in over 200 pounds. But for fantasy football, I think that is the smart pick, because that is where the upside is, especially towards the back end of the second round, even though CJ Stroud is likely going to be the number one overall pick, either him or Bryce Young. But, I think they would be smart to take the shot on Richardson and then just start Andy Dalton for a year. But, I'm not the GM of the Carolina Panthers, so that's not going to happen. So I have the honor of making the last pick in this 2-round mock, and I could be boring and take a quarterback because I think there's, you know, some value in taking CJ Stroud here, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Instead, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a shot and on a running back, and I'm going to take Israel Abanikanda out of the University of Pittsburgh as a way to and let me hold on, let me find him here. Uh, I just, I found him very intriguing when I was watching him play, and I he went to Nebraska and or not Nebraska, Pittsburgh. Sorry, Pittsburgh, and he just a very intriguing player, and he's younger, right? And he was not as productive in his first year. It took him a while, but 1,400 rushing yards in his last year at Pittsburgh. He has the ability, I believe, to catch the ball out of the backfield. So, and he's not yet 21 years old. So, the thing when you look at him that's most intriguing is the size with the college production and getting a running back like this. I mean, this is a perfect shot to take a running back this late in the draft. And there he is, pretty close to the top of the list. And that's going to round out this draft. Aaron, before we go, is there anything that you've noticed now that we can kind of sit back and look at the picks that we've made that stands out to you that maybe surprised you a little bit or was unexpected?
I think kind of my takeaway on this one is like, yeah, there may be it's going to be okay to draft maybe a situation with running back over the talent of a receiver because I really like the receivers that fell in the second round. So it's, if you're in these 1 QB leagues, definitely get those running backs. It's a better running back class than what we've had in some recent years in terms of depth. In depth, when you think of, oh man, I'm drafting the 6th, 7th, 8th running back. These seem to be a lot better running backs than those 6th, 7th, 8th running backs of years past. They're intriguing in various ways, and so yeah, it's going. In doing this exercise here, going receiver early makes me just kind of squeamish a little bit. Oh, don't like it. So that's my major takeaway, and also just seeing that there's some the tight ends that we barely got into, right? Barely got into it, and if this is super flex where I feel like most leagues are going towards, man, third round picks, those mid third round picks are gonna be interesting. There's gonna be a player or two that hits there, I think.
Yeah, no, in Superflex, I mean, we're gonna do more mock drafts on this channel, so this is why you should like and subscribe and click the alarm bell to be notified. 3 days a week, we're gonna be doing mock drafts, and you can catch Aaron, you can catch Cody, Maddie, Jack Kavanaugh, many more analysts will be on the show. I can't remember if Nate's gonna do them or not too. I think so, but I could be wrong about that. Anyway, the point is you gotta stay tuned for more of these. And yeah, like you said, super flex third round. You think that it's just a third round pick. There's gonna be some guys that are gonna fall to that third round because the quarterbacks, the Strouds, the Levises, the Richardsons are gonna push those guys down. So you're gonna be able to get Jaden Reed, who we love, maybe in the third round of your draft. And if that's a third round, if you get Jaden Reed in the third round, I'm sprinting to get him in the third round, even if even in a super flex league. So yeah, and yeah, so you just gotta stay tuned to us, right? To get all of the content here with the drafts, with the mock drafts. I'll go ahead and plug that, and I'll plug our Writers Roundtable show that I mentioned, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on this channel Wednesdays. And if you want to check me out on YouTube, you can do that too. Just Seth Diewold, Diewold on YouTube. Is there anything you'd like to plug here at the end of the show here, Aaron?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and plug that. We also have a Discord server that has got everything. You will have all personalities, a player profiler that engage with the audience in new ways. And one of the things that we've been doing is myself, one of my close friends in this industry here, Chris Wanagara, who is a member of the Fantasy Intelligence Network, a service that Player Profiler has that helps you win your fantasy football leagues. And he is one of the main guys there helping people win their leagues. Him and I, we do some shows on Discord. We do some live streams there. We've kind of got a bit of a schedule conflict, admittedly, right now with the Writers Roundtable because our time is Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Our show has been kind of bounced around several times because of the abundance of YouTube shows that we have. But we are on Discord and we do long live streams. Like we go 2+ hours there. We cover best ball. We cover just general fantasy football and some dynasty football takes. It's if you have questions there, just like with YouTube here, you drop comments. We engage with the audience. We do the same on Discord. Join the Player Profiler Discord. That's discord.gg/Player Profiler. That's the main thing that if you want to see more of me, that's my, I guess, weekly show. We don't even have a show name for it. It's just best ball, general fantasy football. Chris and I like to talk about the roster construction, roster build. The reason we do the best ball drafts is it teaches you how to approach fantasy football drafts. Sometimes value can be your worst enemy there because it prevents you from building a winning team. You can have the most valuable team, but did you actually draft a team that can win? So we're out there helping people just get smarter with roster construction. That's my major thing. From time to time, you may see me. You're going to see me more on this show. In fact, I am hosting the Tuesday version of Mock Draft Live. And I believe, Seth, you're going to be joining me for that. We signed up for it. I wasn't originally supposed to be on this. I hopped on because we had a little schedule conflict here. So you're going to see us again do a different mock draft, a different rookie mock draft. Won't be the same as this one. We're trying to do different ones. So every time you come in, we will try and cover all the different ones. Some standard scoring, PPR, 2 quarterbacks. Maybe we get crazy. We do tight end premium, and I don't shame Seth for drafting a tight end. We'll do different ones to help prepare you because rookie drafts, some I'm sure have gone on before the NFL draft, but if not, rookie drafts are coming. So be prepared. This show, Mock Draft Live, is Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. The one on Sunday, I'm pretty sure, is a NFL mock draft, not just a fantasy. It is a NFL mock draft. I believe that's Cody and Maddie Kiwoom that are doing that. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. I kind of glanced at the schedule before hopping on because I was like, oh, how are we going to get someone with Seth today? It'll be me. So is that who is doing this show on Sunday?
I think so. I don't have it pulled up right now, but I think you're right on that. I think I looked at it before we came on here.
Either that or I spoke it into existence, and those guys suddenly have no Sunday plans except for doing Mock Draft Live.
It's Maddie and Jason out.
Maddie and Jason. Okay. Is it an NFL mock draft? Did I get
it? It is unfortunately, no. Super Flex rookie PPR. The NFL round 1 mock draft is actually next Friday. So 1 week from today. Cody and Maddie will be, and I'm sure, I don't know, I don't want to say too much, but I know Cody's probably got another mock draft around the corner here. So I don't know if that will be out by then, but we'll see. It's a lot of work putting those together. So, well, I had a blast doing this. I can't wait to do another one with you, Aaron, on Tuesday. It's going to be a lot of fun. It was a great exercise to go through. And one last time, if you haven't done it yet, click the subscribe button. Help us out here. Help us grow. Help us engage with you. We're here to help you get better at fantasy football. And if anybody's betting against me to hit the end screen, like Matt Babich, maybe my co-host, he's sitting there twiddling his thumbs, like, or not twiddling his thumbs, like stroking a cat mischievously, thinking that Seth Diewold is not going to hit the end screen. Well, I've got news for you. I'm about to hit the end screen, and we're about to end the live stream. Thank you so much for watching. Be good, everybody, and we will catch you next time.